Well, we have Sheriff Russ Van Renterghem in here, and you put out a press release today. You were talking about how things have gone, and you thanked members of the community. So, can you kind of update us a little bit about that press release and why that was important?
Well, Ken, I had to type a couple of thank you letters today to a few of the surrounding sheriffs. They really stepped up and helped us out with some coverage and keeping an eye on Deputy Rainey's house during the funeral, that type of thing. So I got done with those thank you letters to those sheriffs, and then I got to thinking, we've had a lot of people step up in the community. Just, if nothing else, kind words, offering assistance, just prayers, just everything for not only the sheriff's office, but for Brian's family. And I just thought I need to put a thank you out to the community as well. So, and it's just been overwhelming. I mean, just the social media comments, sharing memories of Brian, all his friends, his acquaintances, because Brian knew a lot of people in the community. And I just thought I need to put a thank you out to them as well.
Well, you spoke at his funeral, and you talked about many of those fond memories that you had with him, because you got to know him both on the PD side of things and over at the sheriff's office. And so when you look at all of the outpouring now and knowing Brian as well as you did, what do you think he'd be thinking about this right now?
I remember while I was speaking first of all, I really had to cut that speech down. I could have stood up there and talked for hours about Brian, because I worked with him at the police department. I worked with him at the sheriff's office. I remember actually up there on the podium while speaking, I'll bet Brian is just rolling his eyes thinking, what is all this big fuss about? Because, there was, I don't know, Ken, I would guess 300 to 400 people there. And I don't think Brian would necessarily want all that attention unless it was at one of his Bacon Fest celebrations. He just wasn't that. He wasn't a spotlight type of guy, and he wouldn't have wanted all the fuss.
So how about your department? It's been a very difficult time. We had a fellow team member over in the PD, and then Brian's death. And how's your team been handling this?
Well, first of all, Ken, go back a couple of months. We're a small enough community here in rural Iowa. The sheriff's office, the police department, we're small agencies, and I never thought in my wildest dreams we would ever have to deal with a law enforcement suicide. So Ian's matter happened 2.5 months ago, and you just never expect a deputy's hobby to cause his death. As a sheriff, I worry a lot about my guys getting in a traffic accident. I mean, they just put so many miles a day on. And recently, I say recently, the last 2.5 years, we've really seen an influx in the vehicle pursuits. And that's when, as an administrator, I worry about my guys getting in a vehicle accident. I don't worry about them, you just don't think they'll pass away during their hobby. And like Brian, one of his hobbies was buying, collecting, and trading guns. So.
Yeah. So your officers have responded well. I mean, it was tough, but and then your reserve unit that you've helped build over the last few years even now is stepping up and helping the community.
Well, when the incident with Brian happened, because we're a small agency, we all knew Brian very intimately. I mean, when you work side by side with someone for years and years and years, it's like growing up with your brothers in the same household. I got to tell you, it just knocked a bunch of us off our feet. You just don't expect that, If a coworker, a brother, a close friend has a terminal illness, you have time to prepare for that. When something this tragic happens, you don't have time to prepare. So, but as far as how everybody's doing, we're getting there. It's still going to take quite a bit longer. You mentioned the reserve unit; they really stepped up. They're helping us with some of our coverage now because we had a retirement, and we had Brian's passing, and now we have a deputy out on family medical leave for several weeks. The reserve unit are really stepping up and taking some of the shifts, taking some of the load off the full-time guys. I give them a lot of credit. You were down there. You know how many of them came to the funeral. I can't tell you how many of them reached out to me in the days after Brian passed away, wanting to come in and work and help cover and so forth. So we're taking them up on that offer now. They all knew Brian. You know, many of them didn't know him as well as us full-timers did, but he was their firearms instructor as well. You know, Brian was a firearms instructor for the full-timers as well as the reserve unit. Brian was also in charge of our sex offender registry here for Mahaska County. And because we do compliance checks every month, excuse me, you know, Brian would work with our reserve deputies who were working and doing some of those compliance checks to teach them how to do it and what to look for and that type of thing. So, yeah, I can't give them enough credit. They really stepped up, the reserve unit did, so, and continue to.
I was going to say, I worked with Brian on occasion, and I have some fond memories of him, and I'm sure all of your staff and the reserve units are sharing those still, as you've mentioned before.
Right.
That, so we'll kind of go back to, you know, your thank yous. Any last thoughts that you would like to share with the community? You know.
Well, just kind of like my press release or my thank you I put out. I can't sit here and tell you this person, this person, this person, this organization, this organization, this group. There's so many of them. Everything from text messages to telephone messages to people bringing in food to the sheriff's office, people volunteering, people just the kind comments, statements, that type of thing. I wish I could. I wish I had a list of each individual, each business, each group. We just don't have that. That's why everybody who shared a kind word or any gesture, prayers, support for not only sheriff's office, but Brian's family, we just deeply appreciate it. You know, the surrounding agencies, every sheriff's office around us, as well as 2 and 3 counties away, offered to help us any way we could. And we took a couple of them up on that. Most specifically, Wapello County and Marion County both helped us a lot with patrol coverage and some extra patrols. And that's very comforting to know that in a tough time you can just pick up the phone, call a neighboring sheriff, and yep, they drop everything and they're there to help. And we would do the same for them. There again, I was just writing thank you letters to those 2 specific agencies today. It's just been overwhelming, and it is deeply appreciated by us.
All right. Well, that was all I really had for you today. Thank you for coming in and sharing some of your thoughts today.
No problem. We appreciate your coverage, Ken.